All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody can hear me. The mic's a little bit far away. I'm James Varley, the founder of Holiday Cottage Handbook. That's our brand there. You will see, if you scan the QR code there, you can head through to our website, find all our free resources for short-term rental house and property managers. You can also enter our competition. We've got a load of goodies that you can win on our stand. Fill in your details. Also, we've got a petition there to reverse the government's plans to abolish the furnished holiday lettings tax regime. We've got over 4,000 signatures so far, and we're aiming for 10k, so it would be great if you could help us out. It'll take you about a minute to sign that petition. Okay then, so this panel we're going to be focusing on short-term rental property management solutions, how hosts and managers can take their short-term rentals to the next level. I've got Stefan Hoffelner with me from your AirHost, which is a big property management company based in London. Joe Siart from Rental Ready, which is a property management solution. Chris Baxter from SuperControl, another PMS, and another PMS, Alex Caravitis, who is the co-founder and CEO. So first of all then, I think we'll just start by introducing you guys and your companies and what you do. Just give us the elevator pitch, starting with you, Stefan.
Sure. So your AirHost is a short-term rental management company based in London. We manage about 250 properties across the capital, and we're sort of specialists in short, medium term and corporate reservations.
Joe?
Hi, I'm Joe Siart. I'm Managing Director for Rental Ready, which is part of Guest Ready, which is also a property management company across 8 countries and 30 cities in Europe. So we are the in-house PMS or property management solution, which is utilized by Guest Ready to manage more than 4,000 properties. And we now white label this to offer this to other property management companies across the continent.
Chris?
Yeah, so I'm from SuperControl, and we are a UK-based property management system and integrated channel manager. We provide solutions for property owners and for property management companies, so really any size of business. And we provide all the tools and features to simplify, to automate, and to maximise the potential of your properties.
Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex. So Hosthub is a software for vacation rental owners and managers. We have customers across the globe. We're an all-in-one solution, which means channel manager and PMS, which means that you can streamline operations, you can save time and money, and synchronize bookings, rates, and everything you need on all the platforms like Airbnb, Booking, Vrbo, and so forth.
Fantastic, thank you guys. Right, let's start with Stefan then. So Stefan, what are the essentials of exceptional short-term rental property management in 2024?
So I guess the exceptionals, the kind of non-negotiables are, first of all, keeping your standards really, really high. So the guest expectations has really evolved over the course of the last sort of 5-10 years of short-term rentals. So as I was talking about before in the previous seminar, managing that guest experience from start to finish in short-term rentals is super important. This business is based on reviews. So we don't have a single property that has either 10 5-star reviews or 10-star reviews, depending on which platform that you're using, that sits under 90% occupancy inside the M25. So reviews are the overriding theme of what's important in this business. And how do you get good reviews in the industry? Well, starting from that guest journey from the beginning, making sure that all inquiries are responded to within an hour. We have a target within our business of 45 minutes. Making sure that the guest journey on arrival has been properly managed, so that when the guest comes to the property, he has very clear instructions on how to use it. Creating house manuals and video instructions is super important. So you can have a guest who doesn't speak English. If you've written a really detailed house manual and very detailed instructions, if the guest doesn't understand English, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. Everyone now is used to watching Instagram videos, TikTok, just understanding how the guest enters the property, where they collect the keys from, how that process is kind of done with a really simple video goes a long way. It will cross language barriers as well. And then the guest journey when they've come into the property. A personalized experience for your guests now has become so important. It's actually very easy to do as well with technology. You'll find out reasons for stay, how many guests are coming, what their names are, and then leaving those guests a kind of personalized welcome gift on arrival really goes a long way to help securing those good reviews. And the overriding kind of most important factor within the short-term rental business is reviews. The difference between a long-term rental and a short-term rental is people will book your place, based on a couple of factors, but reviews is the most important one. The platforms will also push your listing up towards the top if it's well reviewed. If it's badly reviewed, it will sit much further down. So everything that you can do as a sort of short-term rental host to ensure that those good reviews come in is super important nowadays.
Alex, how can a property management solution take your hosting to the next level? And maybe for those people who are starting out, give an explainer of exactly what a PMS is.
Great. So in the short-term rental industry, you have two basic categories of people that manage properties. You have the owner that might have like a second home, or he's renting a room from his own home and he's managing his property. And then you have professional managers who manage maybe 5, 10, 20, 100, 1,000 properties. Now, 10 years ago, the landscape was very different. And you could find all sorts of different properties with varying degrees of quality. Now, as the time goes by and as the industry is starting to get more professionalized, you see properties that are much higher in quality. And this means that anyone managing properties, since the competition has increased, needs to become more professional. So it's very hard to compete against a professionally managed property that has automated check-in processes, that has a standard of cleanliness, which you might not find in a privately managed property. What the PMS does is it gives all the tools that the manager needs. Even an owner can use a PMS, by the way, to streamline operations and save time and money and increase the quality. So the PMS has all the tools that the manager or an owner needs to increase his quality, streamline operations, remove problems from the equation, and at the end of the day, get better reviews and have more bookings.
Chris, should you be using a PMS from day one when you start?
Yes, I think so. What the PMS will allow you to do is to synchronize and simplify. So one of the most important things is getting the distribution right for properties, especially from the beginning, get those listings visible and bookable. So the PMS will make that process much easier. In many cases, you can actually build your listing from the PMS. You can create the listing descriptions, the images, the photographs. You can manage all of your pricing. So you're starting off from a place of simplicity rather than having to simplify complexity that you might have created by not having a PMS in the beginning.
Joe, tell us about some of the key features for the Rental Ready platform and how they can help people really take their hosting management to the next level.
Thanks for that question, James. At Rental Ready, we consider that we have all essentials under one roof. So that's why we have the little Rental Ready house here. So I'm going to give this out to somebody a little bit later when I ask a question to the audience. Maybe I'll ask that question now, and then I'll answer your question. Who is doing both short-term, I guess meaning in London, less than 90 days, maybe soon across the nation under 90 days.
We hope not.
And then more than 90 days. Who's doing both? Is there anybody doing both? Okay, come on up for your house after the event. Within Rental Ready, when we say we have all essentials under the same roof. First of all, what are the essentials? We consider that there are like 12 main features that you need in order to manage. And when you're doing short-term rentals, it's extremely difficult to get all of them right. So having all of them in the same place, unified as well as native, is very, very helpful. The more integrations that you include, the more complex your systems get, the more something can maybe fall apart. Now, we do have integrations, but those integrations are there to drive you forward in a certain area. As Stefan said, maybe guest experience is really important to you, so we're integrated with Iago. Maybe the rates are extremely important to you, so we're integrated with price slabs and such like that. So it's extremely important to try to get a system in place which can do most of what you need to have done, because if it can't, then those little bits and bobs that you're going to add on could overly complexify your operations.
Stefan, moving it forwards then to kind of property management. What can a property management company deliver that hosts will probably struggle to deliver on their own?
I think there's a variety of factors there. If it's something that you're doing day in, day out, and that you have done as a business for a number of years, you're going to be more sort of mindful of all the different avenues of the business. So from pricing the unit correctly, managing calendars correctly, it's one of the most important things that you can do as a short-term rental host, is managing your calendar correctly. So often people will say, you know, great nightly rates on the property, I want the property sold for a fantastic nightly rate. I think the more valuable question is, what money did I get back in my pocket at the end of the month? So making sure that your calendars are fully booked. And how do you do that? Sometimes taking a 1 and 2 night stay is counterintuitive because it can block up calendars. So when somebody comes to search for a long stay, your property isn't going to show across all of the platforms. As a business, our average length of stay is 12.9 nights, so just under 2 weeks. So they're a lot more common than people think. So making sure that you're set up to get those listing and exposure across all of the various different platforms, which I'm sure all of these PMSs will be able to do. There isn't just one platform, Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia. They all bring you reservations. So showing yourself across all of them is very important. And then managing all of the details connected with your short stays, making sure that the standards of cleanliness is very good. There are a few factors that will get bad reviews very quickly. If your internet isn't quick, you know, that the second somebody comes in with family, with kids, and they want to watch programs, dad wants to work, mum wants to shop or work, whatever they're doing on it, if they can't access quick internet, the property will get badly reviewed. And for an extra 10, 15, 20 pounds a month to spend on it, it's worth its weight in gold. The other ones that'll get bad reviews quickly, hot water, heating, electricity, all of that, just making sure that all of the appliances work. If something doesn't work, take it away. If it's not sold on the listing and somebody isn't expecting it and the appliance doesn't work, make sure that it's removed from the property, because once somebody goes in then switches something on and it doesn't work, that can be a point of frustration for the guests. And then just making sure that the standard of cleanliness, everything that guests would expect to be done is really done to a good standard.
That average length of stay, 12.9 days, I mean, that's huge in this industry. How are you achieving that, and what are the kind of the tools and the tips that you can give people to attract those longer length of stays? And also, like, what's your occupancy like when your average stay is that high?
So a PMS will help you do that. That's one of the main benefits of doing that. What we do as a business is we set strategies on minimum night stays. So we'll accept shorter stays for upcoming gaps in the calendar. If somebody's booking one of our properties for sort of 2 months ahead, it'll be a 14-night stay. For 1 month ahead, it would be a 7-night stay. And then we're filling up the shorter gaps as we're getting closer to them. Pricing is super important. So we look at pricing on a daily basis. I always think that it's, as I said before, the best question is, what money did I get back at the end of the month? So if I'm looking at an upcoming availability gap, just making sure that you're reducing the price, that you're on that daily. If you're constantly changing the price, the platforms will push you up towards the top. You can also be connected in the platforms with different promotions, rate strategies, giving discounts for weekly stays, giving discounts for monthly stays. It's a lot better to have 30 days sold at a slightly lower rate than it is to have 5 days sold at a great rate, but 25 days unoccupied. So if you're employing all of those strategies across the board, those really do help with occupancy rates. Don't kind of chase the 1 night stay and the high average nightly rate. That can be really counterintuitive.
Brilliant advice. Stefan mentioned pricing there, Alex. How do you get your pricing right?
So there's 2 ways to do pricing. One is on your own, and one is to use a tool, like smart pricing tools that are available. If any of you here has ever tried Airbnb smart pricing, you might have switched it off really fast. Because what Airbnb tends to do with their own smart pricing tool is just push rates very low. So no one likes that. There are, however, professional smart pricing tools out there like Price Labs and Beyond and Wheelhouse and a bunch of them, which do a much better job. And what they do is they look at many different factors, like where's the property located, what's the competition like, are the competing properties fully booked or not, what's the rates, if there's an exhibition center close by, if there's a show, if there's a concert. So it takes all those signals and it decides on the best rate to give you at the end of the day the maximum revenue possible. Not necessarily the maximum occupancy, but certainly the maximum revenue. So you can either use one of those tools or do it on your own. If you do it on your own, it's still very possible that you can do a very good job. You have to look at the competition. You have to look at how your competition is priced, what's your occupancy. You can use tools like AirDNA, who they just scan all the platforms every day and they know the rates of every competing property in your neighborhood, and you can check that and see what the others are doing and then base your price according to that.
Chris, another topic which is huge in the short-term rental space is direct bookings. How important are direct bookings, and how can a tool like SuperControl help their customers attract more of them?
Well, the direct bookings are the third most popular booking source. The report that Key Data did for us quite recently. So they're the third biggest source of bookings, so they're crucial. A tool like SuperControl will allow you to have full control over how you manage that direct booking process and how you display your availability, how you integrate a website. So I think the key to any booking process to make it simple is a word I'm going to use a lot today, is to make it simple. If guests I could go on Airbnb right now, get my phone out, and I could be booked in one click. It knows everything about me. So the direct booking process needs to, yes, collect all the information that you need from your guests, but to be easy to navigate, easy to click all the way through and secure that booking. And a PMS can do that because it knows what your availability is, it knows how many bookings are on Airbnb, it knows what prices are, and you can differentiate. You can test your rates, the tolerance of your rates. You can have different pricing directors you might on a channel. You can open up short breaks earlier on a website than perhaps you might on a channel, for example. So there's different ways that you can use it, but it's an important part of any distribution mix, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Most PMSs can be very easily integrated into pretty much any website platform.
Joe, do you need direct bookings? Can you, if you're a very hands-off host or property manager, can you just say, I'm fine with the OTAs, I'm fine with Airbnb, Booking.com, I don't want my own website, I don't want to do any marketing, I'll just stick to the OTAs?
I saw the debate that was launched by Richard Vaughton recently, and that you responded to as well about that, saying his point of view is that unless you're like a really big brand, it can be really, really tough to get direct bookings. And I think Damien Sheridan as well of the Scale shows said that he knows people that have invested like £10,000 in their direct booking website and have gotten nothing. So if you go, I think you need to go sort of all in, so a lot of companies may prefer to say, you know what, we just want a presence out there, but we don't necessarily need to pay an SEO expert and a web designer and maintenance and hosting and such like that for those. It can be a tough road to hoe. Now, I do also know many property managers, even smaller ones, that have had success with that, and they get maybe almost 100% of their bookings for direct, but they work it. So they talk to their local tourist board, they talk to the local businesses, they hustle to get those direct bookings. It's not just putting it up on the web and waiting for the money to flow in.
Yeah, I was going to say, Alex, it is that, isn't it? You can't just build a website and expect people to find it without doing anything.
Yeah, the saying, build and they will come, does not work here. So, yeah, it needs work. However, I think that having your own direct booking website Even if you can build it on your own, by the way. We have, if you Google, how can I build my own direct booking website? We have a blog post, it's free, it has 13 steps, and for less than $100, you can build your own, and it's just point and click, no coding required. So even if you do it on your own, or if you ask someone to build it, there are solutions out there for, like, ours is like $800 or something. It's important to have it, because you don't want someone that came once from Airbnb to come again from Airbnb. So Airbnb and Booking and Vrbo are great lead generation sources. They are great tools. They are great marketing platforms. Use them. Be on them. However, when someone comes to you from Airbnb and you pay 15% to Airbnb or Booking, when they come again next year, you don't want them to come again from Airbnb and you pay again the commission. So a direct booking website or just a booking page, a booking engine, will allow you to just send them a link and tell them, hey, book from here. So they come to your website, they pay directly, it's all integrated with the payments and everything, and you got a direct booking. Now, starting from that, you can start building on a brand, on a guest experience, on marketing your own direct booking website, and you don't need to do it all at once. Start with a presence that allows someone to book directly and build on that, and then you can, it depends on what's your appetite for investing time on that. And the more you invest, the more you're going to have customers from that.
Yeah, great advice. Don't pay the OTAs twice for the same guest. Stefan, where do you stand on direct bookings, and what do you do to attract them?
I mean, I would say you can do it even more simply than creating a direct booking website and going down that route. Just emailing all of your guests a coupon when they book direct to save whatever you're paying on a platform fee would be something that's enticing. You can then just put that email address on a MailChimp campaign and email them every month or something. When we have events in the area, so if we have a property in Chelsea and people come during Chelsea Flower Show, next year when Chelsea Flower Show is, we're sending out emails to all of those guests beforehand. So not even going as far as creating a direct booking website, you can capture their data and remarket to them with some really, really easy tools to do so. You're going to immediately save yourself the platform fee that you pay to Airbnb and Booking.com, and it's going to encourage those guests to come back to you. If a guest has had a good stay and they leave a review, offer them a discount if they want to come back. They've clearly enjoyed staying in your property. They've come to your location for a reason. Just offering them a simple, via a simple email, a coupon, whatever it might be, is an even more simple step. As a portfolio that we manage, you're quite right, it's probably the third biggest source of bookings for us, direct bookings, and growing every single year. So if you are capturing that data and remarketing to people, it is going to save you money and put more money in your pocket as opposed to Airbnb and Booking.com.
I think that's a trend, actually, hasn't it? I've noticed this with a few guests at my own place. People are looking to book direct now. They know that they can save a little bit of money potentially by booking direct. Talking of trends then, Chris, what are we seeing in 2024, and what should hosts and property managers be aware of to make sure that they're successful in the remainder of this year?
So on the whole, I think we're seeing, despite Stefan's length of stay, I think on the whole we are seeing contracting lengths of stay. We're seeing shortened booking windows, booking lead times. We're seeing strong performance in Scotland, where there's been an impact of licensing. So there's some stock has come out of the market, which is resulting in slightly stronger occupancy in Scotland. And basically, I think we're having to work harder to stay still. So we need to get more bookings, more revenue just to stand still. So I think the things that we need to do about that are make sure that our properties are visible in the right places, that they're bookable for the right lengths of stay, trying to extend things like the shoulder season, trying to extend that into June and into September. Anyone who's only available for 7 nights in the summer, if the average guest is looking for 4 nights, you're probably not visible. There's a difference between being listed and being visible. So I think getting the pricing right, and I would completely agree with dynamic pricing, not only is it's responding to the market, but it takes all the admin out as well. And whether it's your direct booking website, whether it's your Airbnb listing, is review those listings. Every time you make a change to a listing, it gives it a little boost. Making sure the imagery is right, that every single amenity is listed, even the things that you think people will just take for granted as being there, get them listed on those channels. So that again, I would say distribution mix. If we are looking to get longer lengths of stay, Verbo is the channel where that's more likely to come from. Verbo guests book further ahead, they stay for longer, spend more money. So getting a good mix of distribution, getting the price right, getting the quality right, I think that there's nothing to be frightened of within the trends. It's all manageable.
You touched on it very briefly there about the issues in Scotland with the new regulations that have been brought in. We've seen press reports over the last few weeks about there not being enough accommodation for the Edinburgh Festival, for example. So just give us an overview of what's happening in Scotland and how hosts and property managers are responding to this.
Essentially, the short-term licensing regulations came in, so every self-catering business had to apply for a license by the 1st of October 2023 in order to continue operating. So those who didn't can no longer operate. Some of those businesses will have been unsuccessful, and so that stock comes out. Some just decided not to continue. And the complication in Scotland is that it's being administered by each local authority, so the rules are slightly different depending on which council area that you're in, and much more expensive in certain council areas, and there is a particular problem in Edinburgh. But what that does mean is that the people who remain unlicensed are, they're the cream of what's left. They're the professional self-caterers. So there's a massive opportunity for those businesses that do remain to really thrive.
Alex, what are you seeing in terms of trends? And Chris mentioned an important word there, professionalisation. We're seeing much more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Professionalization is the number one trend, and that brings a few more trends along. So we're seeing AI in our industry all the more during the past couple of years. So, for example, you'll see PMSs like ours introducing AI assistants that can answer your guests automatically or just help you answer questions. They can automate a large part, like our assistant is coming out next week, and in internal trials, it's answering more than 80% of guest queries, the same or better than what the host would have answered, because it uses better language and it takes the time to make the answer more nice and more professional. So this is one trend that is certainly going to become stronger as time goes by. Smart pricing, we're seeing increasing number of our customers switching to smart pricing, because when your competition is using smart pricing, then he's going to be better than you, better prices, and he's going to get better occupancies. So in order to fight that, you need to invest a lot of time to think about how you will price your property. But if you use a smart pricing tool, it's going to be done automatically. Then we see a very strong growth in guest experience platforms. We're integrated with a few of them, and what they do is they help make the experience of the guest much better. So they can propose things to do in the area. They can help the, even queries during his stay, like, can I have this, can I have that, or suggestions. They can also help him book like a taxi or rent a car or book a ticket to the local museum. All that improves the guest experience. So anything related to improving the guest experience is already a trend and will just keep growing in the next few years, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've seen more and more companies getting involved in that space. Joe, what trends are you seeing?
I would like to echo what Alex said. A lot of professionalization, but a big trend, which may not be happening so much here in the UK, but is happening all over the world, is inventory. People have woken up 8 years, 10 years after everybody else and decided, hey, we can actually make a lot of money putting our property out on short-term platforms. And they're finding it a tough road to hoe, and also making it harder for the existing people who are already there, they know the value of their place, but in fact they're not getting that value because the inventory has exploded. So if you are looking to put your property or properties out there, and I would suggest to go with a professional company like your AirHost or Guest Ready, a company like that who actually knows what to do to get new properties visible and getting bookings right away. Another trend that I'm seeing is that because of regulations and because people are not necessarily experiencing the same effects in the short-term market, they're mixing. Maybe they're going back and forth between sort of midterm and sort of short-term. And they're finding that they don't necessarily have the tools that they need in order to do both. So that's something that Rental Ready has responded to, and having tools to both help you stay compliant with the days rule that you might have, but also being able to price your properties effectively. The pricing tools that are out there, they can help you with short term, but they can't necessarily help you with midterm or long term. They don't know how to price those kinds of stays. So Rental Ready actually has built into our pricing algorithm, which is built natively into our system, the ability to effectively price for midterm as well as short term. Get yourself flexibility in whatever you decide to do.
Let's talk starting out, and we'll also talk about scaling your businesses as well. What are your top tips, Stefan, for people who are starting out in this industry and they're getting their first property?
Top tips, I'd definitely recommend using some form of channel manager or PMS, giving yourself as much exposure across as many different platforms as you can, and getting the property ready from the beginning. We meet a lot of landlords that say, I'll add this bit later on, I'll put this extra bed in later, I'll decorate this room later on. We really take that as the wrong approach because of the instant nature and feedback of reviews in the industry. The properties really have to be ready, and because of the increased levels of professionalization within the industry, the properties have to be ready for day one. That first guest is going to review you, and if you get a couple of bad reviews, it doesn't matter whether you use a professional management company, whether you do it yourself. If you've got a few bad reviews connected with your listing, it's going to become incredibly difficult to sell it moving forward. So getting the property ready to go from day one and putting in a lot of extra effort for those first few guests to ensure that those first few reviews are good are going to help you appear higher on the algorithms, so your property is going to appear higher towards the top of any search in an area. That will help ultimately with your occupancy. And then responding to all the things that the platforms are asking for, so daily rate changes, the price change from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that it will change every day. That sinks in better with the platforms, so it will give you more visibility on them. And then making sure that the guest journey, the experience that the guest has, is both personalized, and flawless. That, as I've mentioned before, we put QR codes in all the properties. So it's really easy to give personalized messages to all the guests. So when they come in, they have a nice welcome message in there that they felt like they've received a personal experience on there. And then also managing the calendars properly. So as I mentioned before about, those average length of stays, if you take a nice long booking, you want to increase that block. So immediately when that booking comes in, taking your average length of stays around each side of that stay down. So the block can increase as a one chunk. So I've taken a nice 14-night reservation. Either side of it, I'm happy to take smaller reservations that fit directly around that reservation so that I have more of the calendar sold. Being on that quickly will give you more occupancy overall. So those are some good tips I find around it.
Super.
Can I add something to what just Joe said? So did you know that when you first list a property on Airbnb and Booking and Vrbo, it gets a visibility boost? So the first few days that you list a new property, it shows high up in the search results. And the platforms, they all do it. Airbnb and Vrbo and Booking.com, they all do it. And they do that in order to see, does it attract any bookings? So if in the first few days that you've listed the new property, it doesn't attract bookings, it's going to just push it down very low in the search results. If it does, it's going to keep high. So just to add to what you said, it's very important when you first list a property, it has to be perfect, the perfect listing, with all the amenities, all the facilities, the perfect pictures. Never take pictures on your own. Always use a professional photographer. It has to be the perfect listing to attract the first bookings, which will keep you high in the search results. If you don't, you've just wasted a perfectly good opportunity to keep high on the search results.
That's brilliant, actually. My next question to you was going to be, give us the basics of creating a brilliant listing. I mean, photography, how important is photography?
I've had customers, come to us and they've listed their properties with the latest iPhone or the latest Pixel phone, and they think the photos are perfect, and they're great. You see the photos and you say, wow, they're great. And then as soon as they got professional photos from a professional photographer, they saw a 10, 15, 20% increase in bookings. So there's many things that go into professional photography that an amateur or someone like us with just a simple phone can't do. So professional photos, number one. Number two, make sure that you have all the necessary amenities and facilities that you need in a property. So like soaps and shampoo and enough toilet paper. I've seen, cases where they had like half a roll or something, and it's not enough for a family staying for a week. So there's, whatever you would like to find in an Airbnb or a short-term rental, make sure you have it. Because think as a guest, you're going somewhere to stay. What do you want to find in that place when you're going to stay? Just use that simple logic to know what you have to have as amenities and facilities in your own place. And then, of course, make sure you get your first reviews like 5-star or 10-star on booking.com, because that's also very important. Your first reviews are what are going to drive your next bookings. So just try to make it perfect from the start. Don't, exactly what you said, don't build on something that's mediocre and try to make it better. Just go with the best possible from the beginning.
And in terms of getting it right and understanding what the guest experience is going to be, staying there is important, right? Actually, staying it yourself. And
yeah,
find
absolutely.
out if you've got all the kitchen amenities and all that kind of thing. It can be so important. Chris, I want to talk about guest communication. How important is it, and how do you make sure you get it right?
Well, it's crucial, whether it's transactional, whether it's about enhancing their overall experience of booking with you. I think sometimes we don't plan enough what we want a guest to feel like when they receive the communication. It's tempting to fall into a transactional pattern of communication of a thanks for booking, thanks for paying, thanks for coming. But there's so much more we can do than that. So I would encourage everyone to have a plan. What are we sending? What's it for? What's the purpose of it? What do we want to happen as a result of it? And how do we want the guests to feel? With most PMSs, you can automate all of your guest communication and continue to personalize. So that it's actually quite a simple process to implement. Falls down in not planning what you want that to look like, feel like, and what you want to happen as a result of it.
Is there an optimum number of times that you should be communicating with your guests? And I guess it differs from guest to guest. Some want lots of communication, some don't want very much. But what's the sweet spot?
I actually don't know the answer to that question, James. And it will depend on the guest. It will depend on the type of property as well. But I think one of the ways to resolve that is to have information that's available to them to find themselves. It doesn't have to be emailed. They don't have to email you to ask for it. So whether that's using something like an inbuilt guest login, which certainly SuperControl and many other PMSs have, using something like TouchStay to provide that information so that they're able to find it when they want it.
Hence, like the AI assistant.
Yeah. What the AI assistant actually does, it's like it takes the content that's available on guest experience platforms like TouchStay or TourMe or a bunch of others that we're integrated with, and it trains on that. And then when you ask a question, instead of having to scan through a lot of documents or search through the documents, you just ask the question in natural language and you get a reply in natural language. So, for example, if there's a rule for pets, and you only allow service dogs, for example, or service pets, instead of scanning through a lot of documents to find that, you can just ask, do you allow pets in your property? And you get the answer right away, because the AI is trained on that. Of course, it's perfectly understandable for someone to want to answer on his own as a host, and that's, obviously a very good thing to do if you have the time and the energy and you can do it right. But I think larger management companies, as time goes by, will start resorting to AI more and more, basically for cost savings. But I think the quality will remain the same or even better in many cases.
Joe, let's talk about scaling operations, getting more and more properties. What are your top tips for scaling, and how can a PMS help you achieve your goals?
Scaling, I think the whole panel has talked about sort of getting the basics right, getting the operations right. You cannot build on something which doesn't have a good foundation. So part of that could be the operational procedures that you put in place with your technology, and also with just your personnel and your organization. An added benefit that Rental Ready can give to property managers that are looking to scale is that being a property manager with nearly 1,000 properties already in the UK, but very urban focused, means that we attract a lot of leads, a lot of owners, a lot of people saying, hey, I need management for my property. And what we do is, with our clients, if it's an area that Guest Ready is not covering, we share those leads with our clients. And so they get new properties at a cost which is, a pittance versus what they might pay for search engine marketing and such. So try to go with technology partners or other partners that are not just going to give you the tools to run your business, they're actually going to be helping you build your business.
We've touched a bit on regulation with what's happening in Scotland. We've got 90-day limits here in London. The government recently announced in the spring budget that the furnished holiday lettings tax regime would be abolished. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. Let's imagine we've got the movers and shakers in the political world here right now. What are we saying to them about regulation and about this sector and the value that it brings? What would you say to Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt if you could right now? Well, keep it clean.
The way people are travelling and booking accommodation has changed dramatically over the course of the last 10 years. Flexible accommodation, being able to rent out your own home when you're travelling, it didn't exist prior to Airbnb and the sort of short-term rental market that we see today. So I think the stigmas that you have around it that have created this kind of legislation, there isn't really any need for them if the professionalization comes into the industry. It's the cowboys of this world that have created the stigmas and stuff that now the government is legislating against to protect. The reason why we have problems in communities with short-term rentals is because they're not managed properly. That's as simple as that. We don't take a one-night stay on a Friday night or a Saturday night as a matter of course. We're going to lose the property, we're going to lose the client, and we're going to have to pay to get it fixed. So, as a business, it doesn't make any sense. Proper vetting of your guests. So we do a 5-step verification of every guest that comes into our property. So guest has to give a copy of their ID. They then need to do facial recognition so it matches up that it is that person on that ID that's making the reservation at the time. The name must be the same on the bank card. And it does 2 further checks. It checks that the guest has a social media presence in the same name and that the number that's associated with the stay is a contract phone. So somebody that's gone through that level of verification, that's booked a 5-night stay, that's put down a deposit for your stay, I can't guarantee you it's going to be a good stay, but I can guarantee you that the proper vetting has been done on it and that you are much less likely to get problematic bookings with that. So what I would say to Rishi Sunak and the government is that with proper procedures and vettings in place, this industry offers economies, offers local areas so many benefits that are there to be enhanced. It seems ridiculous to me to put blanket caps across it, and perhaps the undersupply of housing is a bigger issue than the amount of housing that are going on to short-term rentals.
If I may add, everything you described, hotels don't even do that.
Yeah. I mean the guest verification there is exceptional. Alex, what would you say to our world's politicians if we were talking about short-term rentals and why we shouldn't have too much legislation?
One thought that comes to mind is all those neighborhoods, not only in the UK, around the world, that were dying and have suddenly been reinvigorated by short-term rentals. Not just the apartments and the homes, but the whole community around them. Shops springing up and whole neighborhoods being alive again that were just fading out and slowly dying. Now, the short-term rental industry has revitalized thousands of neighborhoods across the globe in this way. It has given work to millions of people that maybe have been unemployed. It has helped millions of homeowners keep their homes because they now have a way to pay their mortgages, which they couldn't before. The tax that has been collected from governments all over the world just from short-term rentals, I can only think of good things. And the one thing that all the governments are saying about the housing problem and people can't find houses to live and the rents are too high, the number of empty homes all over the world is so much larger of a problem than short-term renting than anything else. Like, I'm from Athens, Greece. So in Athens, again, they're trying to put restrictions and we're waiting for the 90 days to come maybe by the end of the year. And they're saying the same thing, that rents are too high and people can't find places to stay. There are 800,000 homes in Greece that are empty. 500,000 of them are in Athens alone. And they're empty because of problems with banks and problems between brothers and sisters and siblings that couldn't handle the inheritance, stuff like that. So solve that problem first, and you've solved the housing problem. There's no need to hit on short-term rentals trying to find a solution to the problem.
What about, we're going to have to mention Scotland again, aren't we? Is this an example of how not to do regulation?
I think it's an example of not listening to the sector, I would say. I don't think anybody disagrees that the intent of the regulation is good. The intent is to professionalise. I think the application and implementation and inconsistency in its implementation would be certainly an example not to follow. But I think that would be my message. Listen to the sector. The sector wants to professionalise. I don't think anyone's against it. You've got your petition going, and we do a lot of work with Alistair at PASC. The sector's ready to engage, so engage with it, I think would be my message. And I think you touched on it briefly, Stefan, but let's not conflate two issues. A lack of affordable housing is not caused by the vacation rental sector.
One thing that's been mentioned a lot, Joe, in this country and in other countries is actually having the correct data and potentially having a registration scheme here in the UK. How valuable would that be, and how important is it for politicians to fully understand the data before they start passing laws?
Unfortunately, the UK is out of the EU now, but the EU has come up with a new directive which makes it mandatory for the platforms to share data so that the local authorities can better enforce. So I think that's maybe a sign of working hand in hand to try to make sure that you're serving both sides, that you want to be able to have, a common rules for everybody in order to share the data. The very good points were made already about regulation. I might add, one thing maybe, and to be a devil's advocate, that regulation was needed in this sector for quite some time. The way that they're going about it, I think, is wrong in the UK. No consultation, no real analysis of the data. It's sort of quick wins to appeal to populists and such like that. Empty houses are a very real situation. But another real situation as well is just the fact that there are some areas that just cannot accommodate all of the demand for a certain area. Even a city like New York. Take New York as an example. What has happened there? They've essentially shut down short-term rentals and Airbnb. So what has that done? It's done two things. First of all the hotels in New York have never been more expensive. And people don't have any other alternative, except for maybe to go outside of Manhattan. So what has happened is all the short-term rates, if you've got a property in New Jersey right now, just across the water, you're sitting pretty. If you've got a beautiful penthouse apartment in Manhattan, the only thing you do is rent that on long-term or occupy that yourself. So what are a lot of people doing? They're just sitting empty. How is that good for tourists? How is that good for the local economy?
Yeah, we don't want a similar situation. All right, we've got nearly 10 minutes left. Has anybody got a question that they're burning to ask? All right, I've got a mic.
Do you want to support hotels? They want to favor other hotels rather than apartments or Airbnb. Maybe all the ministers got their own chain of hotels. If you close all these Airbnbs, okay, they can run their hotels. That could be main reason. Especially when we mentioned about Scotland, right? It's very drastic change. Right? At least in London, we got a 90-day rule. In Scotland, there's no 90-day rule. Okay? Maybe all Scottish ministers got their own chain of hotels.
I'm not sure in Scotland if they know exactly what they want the legislation for.
You sort of touched on the ability for AI to assist in property management systems with guest communication. I'm curious about, with the PMSs, are they exploring what AI can do for the scheduling of and management of contractors, housekeepers, compliance contractors, these kind of things?
Who wants to go with that?
I personally haven't seen anything in that particular use case, but I'm sure someone's working on something.
Yeah, it sounds like something that is about to come in. I mean, we're seeing new tools and new
We're
platforms
going to see
come along
AI,
every single week.
in more and more, things as years go by. So it's going to be touched by AI at some point.
I think now, I mean, like, it's helping a lot with guest communication and also the dynamic pricing. I think there's a lot
those are the two use cases
they're
right
the
now.
two
that are
main
the
ones
strongest.
for now.
And reviews as well. We've got reviews. We've had AI in our solution for a year. I'm wondering, maybe just to follow up a question. Do you know of any particular applications or something that you're thinking that really could be used? AI could be used for this for cleaners and such.
I'm running a property management housekeeping company for about 600 holiday lets, and we've been trying to find a scheduling software that suits our needs. So looking at those typically designed for housekeeping or hotels, they don't really suit our needs as well as property management systems do. But it's just, obviously, I mean, what you've said, the focus has been mainly on smart pricing, guest communications, and the side of it that we focus on doesn't seem to get as much.
So you're talking about cleaning management and organizing repairs and stuff like that, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Compliance.
There's companies that do that specifically, like there's Breezeway, there's Turno, there's a bunch of software that do that specifically. Have you tried any of them?
Yeah, but
Okay.
they don't. Then they're currently not using AI.
I'm sure someone's working in a basement right now doing an AI of that. So just talk to them, ask them if you're working on anything AI related, because it's going to happen from those companies first. PMSs can do like 10, 15 things natively, and they can do them very well. And unless you're one of the two top companies that have 500 developers, you have to connect to companies that do their thing specifically. So I'm guessing all three of us are connected to like 30, 40, 50 different companies that do things like cleaning management and task management and price and smart pricing. Because if we try to do everything, we wouldn't be able to do it correctly. So we focus on what we can do best, which is calendar synchronization, rate synchronization, guest experience, and all that, and then the rest we integrate with third parties.
Any other questions? Sorry, gentleman at the back.
Just touched on guest communication. So you said scan a QR code when you walk into the property and then it opens. So what kind of software would you use for that? Is that run by the PMS or is it an independent?
It's not worked with the PMS, it's worked with Google Drive. What you would have when you scan that QR code is, first of all, a welcome message, and you scan through a slideshow of the house manual and video links.
I mean, you might just do something really simple, like just create a QR code. You can create one for free, put it on the fridge. Like say, this is where you book direct. Next time, if they've come through Airbnb or Booking.com, something like that. I mean, you can put it.
So, for example, you've got Mr. Smith comes to your house, scan a QR code, welcome Mr. Smith.
Yeah, and it can be a way to gather people's email addresses and contact details as well. Because you might only have if you've got 4 guests, you've only got 1 contact details. to get all 4 guests. That's a way of potentially getting. I mean, some people do it with Wi-Fi. They make the Wi-Fi so you have to log on and give your name and contact details and that kind of thing. It's another way of gathering more details and getting more customers. Sorry, you had another question?
How about do you recommend to use both PMS and channel manager, or else any one will do?
I think these guys are all one and the same.
Yeah, these days most of the software in the industry are all in one. So they're PMS and channel manager. 10 years ago, you had 5 channel managers and 10 PMSs. Now I think most of the companies in the industry are 2 in 1. So they have channel manager and PMS all in one.
I've often wondered how you get to the top of the search results, so in Booking.com, and it doesn't seem to be much logic to it. So there are often some really grotty properties with fairly bad reviews always seem to be right at the top. And I just wondered, are they using some kind of software to sort of manipulate it, or?
That is a really, really good point, because I found exactly the same thing. I mean, interestingly, I've got a couple of properties, and I've been getting more and more bookings from Booking.com this year than any of the other OTAs. But I've noticed myself as a guest when I'm searching exactly that. You see terrible properties.
Have you seen Facebook ads from Booking.com lately? If you just scroll through Facebook and there's Booking.com ads popping up, some obscure, strange properties in the middle of nowhere you would never stay at. And you're wondering, why is Booking.com paying money to Facebook to promote these?
And they have the worst photos as well.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. But
it's crazy.
Do you have any of you guys have any tips for doing well on Booking.com?
Yeah. If you go into the extranet, you'll have a load of tools that are there. It's actually quite clear when you go through it. So you've got the first one, which is called the property page score, and that will walk you through how to get that up. If you're using a PMS, it can be sometimes difficult to get it up to 100%, but getting that as high as possible is a good one. And then there's little red buttons when you go into the property page, anything that needs sorting out. So if your photos aren't high quality enough resolution, so on and so forth, those little red buttons are good indicators. The most important thing we find is reviews. So I appreciate that's probably not the answer, because it doesn't directly answer your question. You said they have bad reviews, but our properties with good reviews will book quicker. And
the other thing I thought was there was one particular one, and it was a whole block of flats, and he put them all on one listing. So there was sort of like 12 in the building, whereas a lot of other people do it separately, and I think he called it sort of Heron Court Apartments. And I wondered if that had got him a lot higher on the search results, because it was sort of 12 flats and 12 lots of clicks, and maybe that was.
Booking.com are easier to talk to as well than Airbnb. You can get hold of someone in Booking.com.
I can maybe answer that
sometimes. Yes.
Question. So, on the commissions, what we found when I was smaller, we could share the commission with the host, with the guest.
Yeah.
But now, when you take a PMS on, obviously just takes the commissions to get them onto the host. Is there any way you can kind of create software to allow us to share the commission?
So, essentially the guest price remains broadly the same, because they take the
increases. Well, we used to just have to pay 3% commission.
And the guest was paying, and so the guest would pay 14 as the service fee, and now you're probably paying 15, 16, something like that. So adjusting the price so that ultimately the guest pays the same as they were before. It's just they're not seeing that service fee line. Most channel managers will allow you to uplift a rate according to the channel that you're going to as well. So making sure you get that uplift right. I would avoid the temptation to uplift by the entire amount of the commission, but you can certainly have a play with that. But yeah, I mean, I think essentially there's no way around it. As soon as you're channel managed, that's the model they'll put you on.
By the way, did you know that properties that were listed on Airbnb before 2019 actually are exempt from that, and they can keep the split commission? Properties that are listed after 2019 when they use a channel manager, they automatically switch to the simplified pricing, as Airbnb calls it.
We're running out of time, but go on quickly.
We've had some feedback on Airbnb. Just curious to know what your experience has been on Hoffelner. Did this mean, does it feel like a very arcade and to fluctuate? Curious to know what your experience would be on that platform.
I wouldn't say it's counterintuitive. I'd say the more exposure that you can give the property, the better. As keeping the answer really, really short, you want to give yourself as much exposure across as many different platforms as you can. Platforms will be area specific as well. A lot of American tourists come through VRBO. Australians, I think, use Opogo. So giving yourself that spectrum of platforms that you list on is only beneficial. Look, even if it only brings in a couple of reservations a year, that's a few reservations that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Right, we're going to get kicked out soon. Thank you so much. Just before we leave, Alex, tell people where they can find Hosthub.
Just visit hosthub.com. There's a free trial, and you can book a demo, a 30-minute demo with our sales reps to see it in action.
Chris for SuperControl.
Well, first of all, downstairs at our stand, and also on supercontrol.co.uk.
Joe.
With rentalready.com. I also have cards here, and if I could do a small plug for you,
Yes, please do.
James is a fantastic resource, podcast, Holiday Cottage Handbook, and he has a fantastic drawing that's happening right now. You can win fabulous prizes like the book that I wrote, My Property Payday. So please go enter his contest and listen to his podcast.
Scan the QR code that's coming up, and you'll be able to enter that competition for free. Stefan.
yourairhost.co.uk or stand 62. Or 60.
Thank you so much. Make sure you scan the codes, enter the competitions, please sign our petition and go to our website holidaycottagehandbook.com. Thank you guys.
Thank you.